Chosen one. Heaven has pressed pause on everything right now. In this exact moment, it is as if eternity leans in to listen to your heartbeat. You are not just another soul passing through the noise of this world. You are the one God has marked for something that will outlive you. The air around you carries a strange weight, because this is no ordinary moment. This is the moment where heaven says, "Listen carefully, because I am speaking directly to you." You've always known deep down that you are different, even as a child. The way you saw the world was not like others. People around you might have ignored it, misunderstood it, even mocked it, but you couldn't shake that inner knowing. You were born with a purpose written before time began, and in that purpose, there are moments when God will stop everything to get your attention. This is one of those moments. You may have thought your recent struggles were just bad luck, or a rough patch in life. But God does not deal in coincidence, only in divine orchestration. The obstacles, the sudden turns, the nights you've cried without answers, these are the signals of a spiritual interruption. Heaven interrupts not to punish, but to position. And the position you're being moved into requires you to see yourself as more than just a survivor. You are a chosen vessel, carrying a message that hell has tried to silence. There's a reason certain doors have closed on you recently. You thought they were opportunities, but God saw they were traps in disguise. You may have felt abandoned, but the truth is, you were being hidden. You see, when the King of Heaven has a message for his chosen, he will clear the room, remove the noise, and speak in a way you cannot ignore. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 11. "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, plans to give you hope and a future." This is not just a comforting verse. It is a revelation for this exact season of your life. When everything feels uncertain, God's plan is not shaken. When your heart feels heavy, His future for you remains untouched by the chaos around you. This is why stillness matters right now, not as an escape, but as preparation. You may feel like nothing is moving, but that is because God is working in the unseen. Heaven does its greatest work in silence. The angels are not panicking about your situation. They are aligning things for your favor. This is why the attack against you has been so intense lately. The closer you are to your next divine assignment, the louder the enemy tries to distract you. You've been questioning your own strength, wondering if you really have what it takes. But let me tell you, what has kept you standing was never your own strength. It was the hand of God upholding you when your knees should have buckled. You are here today not because you figured it all out, but because grace carried you through when you didn't even realize it. Beloved chosen one, the reason I am speaking to you right now is because your assignment is about to accelerate, but before acceleration comes alignment. God will not let you carry the weight of the next season if your spirit is still tangled in the last one. That's why He called you into this pause. That's why you feel the tension. That's why you're hearing this message at this exact time. Your next step is not to run faster, it is to listen closer. There is a whisper of direction, a sentence from heaven that will change everything for you. And when you hear it, you will know why God stopped the clock for this moment. If this resonates in your spirit, then this is your divine confirmation. This is the sign you've been asking for. God saw the tears, the sleepless nights, the battles no one else knows about, and He says, You are not forgotten. Beloved chosen one, I am not here by accident, and neither are you. If you can feel the weight of this message in your soul, then type the number 777 inch the comments right now as a prophetic act. 7 is the number of completion, and 777 is the seal of divine perfection. By writing it, you are declaring to heaven and to the unseen realm, I receive this word, and I choose to step fully into my calling. The crushing weight that few survive is not the kind that shows up in the stories people tell. It's not just about a hard week, a financial loss, or even betrayal. It's the kind of trial that presses on your soul until breathing feels like work. Chosen one, you've been under a weight that would have crushed most people by now. You've stood in moments where the darkness felt thick, where silence felt like abandonment, and where the enemy whispered that you would never get out. Yet here you are. What God placed before you was not an ordinary test. It was the kind of refining fire that strips away every false strength until only what is eternal remains. To the outside world, you might have looked calm, but inside, you were in a wrestling match with forces that didn't want you to see another day. The enemy doesn't waste his energy on the ordinary. He saves his fiercest attacks for those with the fiercest callings. The fact that your trial has been so relentless is not proof of God's absence, it's evidence of your significance in the kingdom. The darkness hoped that if it pressed hard enough, you would trade your crown for relief. But you didn't. You may have stumbled. You may have cried until your strength was gone. But you refused to let go of the one who called you. This test was designed to measure not what you could gain, but what you would refuse to give up. The enemy came after your peace, your joy, your faith, your identity. Every attack was meant to convince you to see yourself as defeated, abandoned, and powerless. But deep inside, a different voice kept you standing, a whisper from heaven reminding you that this is not how your story ends. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 24, verse 10, if you faint in the day of adversity, your strength is small. Your afflictions have been many indeed. Days when your strength failed. Nights when prayer felt like words bouncing off the ceiling. Seasons where people you trusted walked away at the moment you needed them most. But even in that, deliverance has been moving toward you. Step by step. God never promised that his chosen ones would be spared from the battle. He promised that they would be preserved through it. And you, chosen one, have been preserved. You may not feel victorious yet, but the fact that you are still here means the test is already tilting in your favor. You've passed something few people could endure, not because you were perfect, but because you stayed. You stayed when leaving looked easier. You believed when quitting would have hurt less. You pressed on when your heart said to run. This weight has done something to you. It has made you unshakable in ways you don't yet see. You've been stretched to limits you thought impossible. And now, what once would have terrified you barely moves you. When you've carried this kind of fire, smaller flames can't burn you anymore. And here is the mystery of it. God allowed this weight not to weaken you, but to reveal you. What has been forged inside you during this season will not be taken away. Others might try to explain your endurance as luck or stubbornness. But you know the truth. It was God's hand holding you. God's Spirit whispering in your ear when you almost collapsed. One day, you will look back on this test and see that it was not a season of destruction, but of construction. God was building something that could only be shaped in the deep places. He was forming in you a trust that is not based on what you see, but on who He is. The crushing weight was real, but so was the one who sustained you under it. And now, something has shifted. The enemy knows you have survived what should have destroyed you. And once a chosen one has passed such a test, hell loses a certain kind of access. The same pressure that was supposed to break you has become the proof that you can carry far more than you thought possible. It's not over yet. There are more steps ahead, but the hardest part has already been walked through. You are no longer in the place where you wonder if you can make it. You've already made it further than you thought. And that alone is a victory worth noting in the courts of heaven. Chosen one. You may not yet see the fullness of why God allowed such a test, but the proof of your endurance is already speaking, and heaven has taken notice. The test was never about comfort. If it had been, you would have failed it before it even began. Chosen one. The fire you walked through was not an accident, it was an assignment. Comfort never produces strength. And God's goal was never to keep you in a cushioned life. His goal was to make you unshakable. If the Lord had pulled you out the moment the pain began, you would have missed the deeper work He was doing. He was not ignoring your cries, He was strengthening your spirit. The trial was designed so that you would learn to trust Him, not just when the way was clear, but when every path looked blocked. God's greatest victories are often hidden in the seasons that feel the most unfair. It's in the unanswered questions and the silent nights that faith is forged. And this is why, even when you begged for relief, He allowed you to stay in the furnace longer than you wanted, because He saw what you could not. As the prophet wrote in the scroll of Habakkuk, chapter 3, verse 19, "The sovereign Lord is my strength. He makes my feet like the feet of a deer. He enables me to tread on the heights." You may not have realized it then, but while you were asking Him to take away the heat, He was making your steps steady for the heights ahead. Comfort might have given you temporary relief, but endurance has given you lasting strength. The enemy hoped you would mistake God's refining for abandonment, but you endured. Even when you didn't understand, you stayed faithful. Even when your prayers seemed unanswered, that faithfulness, chosen one, is more precious than gold. Heaven counts it as treasure. You see, God tests the vessel before He fills it with the oil. If the clay cracks under heat, the oil will spill and be wasted. That's why the fire was necessary. It sealed you. It strengthened you. It prepared you to hold more than you could have imagined. And now, there is a new weight of glory resting on you. It's the kind of glory that can only be carried by those who have proven themselves in the shadows, where no one was watching but God. So here's your prophetic act for today. Type "I stand" in the comments. This is not just typing words. It is you declaring to the unseen realm that you are still standing after the hardest test of your life. It's you telling the enemy that no matter how hot the fire gets, you will not bow to fear. Every time you say it, you are reminding your own soul that the same God who held you in the valley will lead you to the mountain. When you write "I stand," you're aligning with the truth that your stability does not come from your circumstances. It comes from the rock beneath your feet. You are not standing because the storm ended. You are standing because the one who calms the storm is within you. Some people never understand this mystery. They think faith means avoiding hardship. But you, chosen one, have learned the deeper truth. Faith is standing in the middle of the storm and refusing to move until God says it's time. That is why you are dangerous to darkness. The enemy knows he cannot move someone who has already decided to remain anchored, no matter the wind. The test was never about comfort, it was always about capacity. God saw the battles ahead and knew that if you could endure this, nothing else would take you out. You have been fortified from the inside. The parts of you that once panicked under pressure have been replaced with a steady, quiet strength. And the irony of it all? The enemy thought the fire would shrink you, but it has expanded you. Your faith is larger. Your discernment is sharper. Your spirit is stronger. And now you carry something that no one can take away: the knowledge that you can endure anything with God by your side. So, take a deep breath. Look back for a moment and see how far you've come. What you survived would have destroyed the person you were before this test. But you are no longer that person. You are the proven, the refined, the chosen. And while comfort may come in its time, you now understand it is not your foundation. Your foundation is Christ, and He does not shake. The silent hours of heaven are some of the hardest moments a chosen one will ever face. When you cry out and there's no answer. When you search the scriptures and feel no spark. When you kneel in prayer and it feels like the words vanish into the air. That's when the mind starts asking dangerous questions. Has God forgotten me? Did I do something wrong? Am I really chosen? Yet, the silence is not absence, it is invitation. God does not go silent because He has turned His back. He goes silent because He is drawing you into a deeper trust. When He spoke to you often in the beginning, it was like a parent guiding a child's first steps. But now, you are learning to walk by faith, not by constant reassurance. There is a hidden intimacy in silence. It forces you to lean not on the emotional rush of spiritual experiences, but on the unshakable truth of His character. If His word says He will never leave you nor forsake you, then the silence is not proof of His departure, it's proof that He trusts you to believe Him without needing constant confirmation. The ancient words recorded in Romans chapter 8, verse 28, still echo today. And we know that in all things God works for the good of those who love Him, who have been called according to His purpose. You see, the silent season often coincides with the most critical construction in your soul. It's the time when God rearranges the unseen foundations, things you don't notice until much later. While you are feeling the ache of unanswered prayers, heaven is setting in motion the answers you didn't even think to ask for. Silence trains your spirit to listen differently. When the voice you're used to hearing is quiet, you start noticing subtler signs, an unexpected peace in your heart, a sudden clarity of thought, a confirmation through scripture that you weren't even looking for. The silence sharpens your discernment. For many, this is the point where faith collapses. They mistake the lack of sound for the lack of presence. But you, chosen one, are learning that faith matures here. The God who spoke galaxies into existence can speak to you anytime He wants. If He's quiet now, it's because there's something He wants you to see in the stillness, something you could never grasp if He kept filling the air with words. There's another reason for the silence: protection. Sometimes, if God revealed His full plan while you were in the middle of the trial, the enemy would also hear it and attempt to disrupt it. Silence becomes a shield, keeping the strategy of heaven hidden until the right moment. Think of it this way: when a skilled artist is creating a masterpiece, they don't explain every brushstroke. While painting, they work quietly. sometimes for hours, days, or months, until the picture is ready to be revealed. You don't yet see the whole image God is painting in your life. But when it's unveiled, you will understand why He worked in such quiet precision. The silence also exposes what you truly depend on. Do you rely on feelings to know God is near? Or do you rest in the truth that He is near because He promised to be? Do you serve Him because He constantly blesses you? Or because He is worthy even when blessings seem delayed? These questions are answered not in loud seasons of miracles, but in the quiet seasons where all you have is His word and your choice to believe it. It's tempting to fill the silence with your own noise distractions, busyness, the voices of other people. But there's a deeper reward if you resist that urge. In the stillness, you find out that your roots are deeper than you thought. You realize that you are not sustained by emotional highs, but by a covenant that cannot be broken. Many of the greatest figures in Scripture endured such seasons. Joseph waited in prison, seemingly forgotten, yet God was aligning his steps to the palace. Elijah sat under a broom tree, exhausted and ready to give up, until the still small voice came. Even Jesus, in Gethsemane, prayed in agony and was met with no thunder, no angelic choir, only the strength to go through the cross. Chosen one, your silent season is not wasted. It is shaping you for the moments when your voice will carry weight, when your counsel will matter, when your faith will be the steadying force for others. Those who have learned to stand in silence will not be shaken by storms, because they have already learned to trust the one who governs both silence and sound. You will look back and see that the quiet was not empty. It was filled with the unseen work of heaven, the rearranging of circumstances, the forging of patience, and the deepening of trust. What feels like divine stillness now will later prove to be divine strategy. Your hidden victory in the valley is one of heaven's most carefully guarded treasures. No one saw the depth of your battle. They didn't witness the nights you lay awake with questions that had no answers. They didn't see the moments you almost walked away. And they have no idea how close you came to letting go, only to find a renewed strength that seemed to come out of nowhere. But heaven saw. God Himself watched you choose Him in the dark when there was no applause, no recognition, no visible reward. This is the kind of victory that frightens hell, because it proves your obedience is not for show. Some people win on platforms, under bright lights, with crowds cheering them on. But you, chosen one in the valley, you won in the shadows, when nobody was keeping score but God. And this type of victory is worth far more in heaven's economy than public triumphs that are fueled by pride. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 75, verse 7. It is God who judges. He brings one down. He exalts another. God is about to exalt you, not because you sought the spotlight, but because you were faithful when the spotlight was gone. You carried your cross in private. And now, in His time, He will allow the fruit of your endurance to be seen. Here's the truth. People will always underestimate private victories. They want to see dramatic outcomes, instant turnarounds, and clear signs of success. But the kingdom values what happens in hidden obedience, because hidden obedience builds the kind of character that can sustain public responsibility. And I need you to hear this. Your valley wasn't wasted time. It was sacred ground. It was the place where you learned to hear God without the noise of the crowd. It was where you developed the spiritual muscles to stand firm when no one was watching. That's why, even now, as you are stepping into a new season, I encourage you, don't just keep this victory to yourself. Share your testimony. Your words might be the exact lifeline someone else needs. This is also why I want to ask you to take a simple but powerful step. If this message resonates with you, like it so more people can be reached. Share it with someone who's in their own valley. And subscribe so you can continue walking with a community of believers who understand what it means to be chosen. Every click, every share, every subscription helps keep these messages going out to those who need them most. And if God places it on your heart to sow into this work, your giving will directly help spread the gospel to more people around the world, people who might never step into a church, but will hear the word because of your faithfulness. You may think your single act of support is small, but in the kingdom, nothing done in obedience is small. Just as your hidden victories in the valley mattered, so does your willingness to stand with this mission. When you invest in spreading the word, you are planting seeds in ground that produces eternal fruit. But let's go deeper for a moment. Your hidden victory also changed something in the spirit realm. Hell had a plan for you. It wanted to use the valley to make you bitter, to make you self-focused, to make you believe God wasn't worth following unless He gave you what you wanted, and you dismantled that plan without even realizing it. Every time you prayed when you didn't feel like it, you won. Every time you forgave someone who didn't apologize, you won. Every time you kept worshiping with tears in your eyes, you won. These weren't just acts of faith, they were acts of war. You broke patterns. You silenced lies, and you stood your ground. Chosen one. Valleys are not just places of survival, they are places of transformation. What was shaped in you, there will remain when the seasons change. The character you gained in the shadows will keep you steady when you stand in the light. And the wisdom you carry now will become a guide for others still walking their own low places. So don't despise your valley. It's holy ground. It's the place where your roots went deeper than ever before. And when the fruit begins to show, it will be because you allowed God to water you in a place where no one else was watching. Heaven celebrates that kind of victory. And today, so do I, marked by the fire, but not consumed. That is your testimony now. You have been through the kind of season that leaves a mark, the kind of trial that changes a person forever. But the difference is, your mark is not a wound, it is a witness. The fire shaped you, but it did not destroy you. It refined you, but it did not claim you. Others can sense it when you walk into a room. They might not know the details, but they feel the weight of someone who has been through the furnace and come out different. There's a depth in your eyes now, a quiet authority in your words. This is the fragrance of someone who has been tested and found faithful. The Spirit spoke through the prophet Isaiah. Chapter 43, verse 2. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. The flames will not set you ablaze. That's not just poetry for you. It's your lived reality. You have walked through flames that should have ended you. You have endured pressures that could have broken your mind. Yet here you are, carrying no smell of smoke, only the glow of someone who knows the God who rescues. You see, the fire is not meant to consume the chosen. It's meant to consume what cannot go with them into the next season. There were attachments, fears, and hidden weaknesses that could not survive where you are headed. And so, God allowed the heat not to destroy you, but to strip away what was never part of His design for you. This is why you feel lighter now. The things that once held you no longer have the same grip. The words that used to wound you deeply now bounce off you. The fears that used to paralyze you no longer have authority over your steps. The fire has purified your faith, making it solid, unshakable, and precious. And there's something else. Your survival has become a threat to darkness. Because now, every time the enemy looks at you, he sees someone he failed to destroy. He sees living proof that the hand of God protects His own. That's why you've noticed resistance even after the storm has passed. It's not because you're still in danger, but because your endurance has become a weapon. Your story now carries a prophetic edge. When you speak to others still in their fire, your words carry the weight of lived truth. You're not speaking from theory, you're speaking from survival. You're telling them, I've been there, and I know God will bring you through. That kind of testimony has the power to break chains. But here's something important. Do not hide your scars. They are not signs of defeat, they are signs of victory. They are the evidence that you have been to war and returned with the banner of God's faithfulness over your life. People need to see that the chosen are not immune to fire. They just refuse to be consumed by it. And right now, I want you to make a public declaration in the simplest way possible. Type 555 the comments. This is not a random number. 5 is the number of grace. And 555 is a prophetic reminder that grace has covered you completely. When you write it, you are proclaiming that it was grace, not luck, that brought you through. You are declaring that the same grace that preserved you will empower your next chapter. Every time someone sees your comment, it becomes a testimony. They may not know your full story, but they will feel the weight of your survival. And for you, it is a prophetic seal, a way of telling heaven, hell, and your own heart, I am marked by the fire, but I am not consumed. So stand tall. Chosen one, let the glow of the refining fire be visible in your life. Let your steps carry the confidence of someone who has walked with God in the furnace. The enemy tried to use the fire to erase you, but all it did was etch your name deeper into heaven's story. The next season will not be about proving your worth. It will be about walking in the authority you gained in the fire. The mark you carry is not a blemish, it is a crown. And everyone who sees you will know. The flames bowed to the one who walks beside you. The devil's last attempt to break you was never meant to be subtle. When the enemy senses that his time is short, he abandons patience and restraint. He throws every possible weapon at you, hoping that sheer force will make you surrender. And, chosen one, you have felt this firsthand. In those final waves of the storm, you likely wondered why the attacks suddenly became so personal, so relentless, so exhausting. It wasn't your imagination. The pressure truly did increase. That is because the closer you get to your breakthrough, the more desperate the adversary becomes to derail you. There is a pattern in spiritual warfare that heaven understands and hell fears. The enemy will spend the most energy just before he loses. In those moments, you may face not just one trial, but many at once: health issues colliding with financial strain, relational conflicts layered over spiritual fatigue. This is not because you are cursed, but because you are about to step into territory the enemy does not want you to touch. The voice of God thundered in the book of Exodus, chapter 14, verse 13. Do not be afraid. Stand firm, and you will see the deliverance the Lord will bring you today. No, this is the very thing hell wanted to keep you from believing, that deliverance was not far away. So he tried to convince you it was over, that nothing would change, that God's promises were somehow void. And to make the lie believable, the enemy amplified every hardship. It was like a siege. Every exit seemed blocked. Every prayer seemed unanswered. You felt the weight, not only in your circumstances, but in your mind. The enemy's whispers grew louder. Give up now. Stop trying. This is too much. He wanted you to interpret the intensity as a sign that God had abandoned you. But here is the paradox. The very intensity of the attack was the proof that you were still on course. If you had truly been defeated, the pressure would have stopped. Hell does not waste resources on those who are no longer a threat. The fact that the enemy kept pressing meant you were still dangerous to his plans. What you may not have realized in the moment is that the enemy was exhausting his arsenal, like a cornered adversary in battle. He used everything he had left. But spiritual warfare has a truth that never changes. When the enemy spends all his weapons, he is left exposed and powerless. There's something else you should know. In those final attempts, God was not absent. He was allowing the adversary to overplay his hand. When the enemy pushes too far, he reveals his weakness. And in your story, the last wave of attack became the very evidence that God was about to intervene. Think of the Israelites standing before the Red Sea. Pharaoh's army bore down on them with full force, thinking they had nowhere to run. It was his last attempt to destroy them, but it became the setup for God to part the waters. In the same way, the devil's last effort in your life was setting the stage for God's decisive victory. And here is what's most powerful: when that final wave failed to break you, something shifted in the unseen realm. The enemy had to face the truth. His most aggressive attack could not remove your faith. He could not force you to abandon the one who sustains you. And once a believer proves that, the enemy loses a certain level of access. You may still face battles, but the ground you gained in this season is now fortified. Hell knows it cannot reclaim it easily. You have become more resilient, more discerning, and less shaken by sudden storms. The devil's last attempt was not just about stopping you, it was about intimidating you from ever trying again. But you endured. You didn't just survive, you kept moving forward, even if your steps were slow. And in the kingdom, forward is victory. Now, as you stand on the other side of that relentless season, you may still feel the ache of what you went through. That's natural. The scars are part of your story, but they are not signs of defeat. They are reminders that the enemy failed. Every time you see them, you can remember, I faced hell's hardest blow, and I am still here. This is why the devil's last attempt is often his most dangerous, and also why it is his undoing. He miscalculated your endurance. He underestimated the power of God's Spirit within you. And now, every time you take another step in faith, you remind him of his defeat. Chosen one. Understand this. The battle was fierce not because you were weak, but because you were moments away from stepping into something greater. That is why the enemy panicked. That is why he tried to crush you with multiple blows. And that is why, now that you have endured, the path ahead will be marked by a new kind of authority. You carry the proof that the enemy's best was not enough. And when you speak, when you move, When you pray, you do so as one who has stared down the devil's final assault and refused to bow. You chose obedience over escape. In the quiet moments, when no one else knew the weight you carried, you stood before two paths, one that promised quick relief but led away from God, and one that kept you in the fire but kept you in His will. You knew which one your flesh wanted. You knew which one looked easier, but you also knew which one was right. Obedience is not glamorous in the middle of a trial. It rarely feels rewarding in real time. Choosing to stay in alignment with God when you have the option to walk away requires a strength that doesn't come from human willpower. It comes from the Spirit. And that's exactly what carried you. The ancient words recorded in Deuteronomy, chapter 5, verse 33, still speak with clarity. Walk in obedience to all that the Lord your God has commanded you, so that you may live and prosper and prolong your days in the land that you will possess. End of quote. In your valley, escape would have been tempting. The enemy likely placed shortcuts in front of you, relationships, opportunities, compromises that seemed harmless at first glance. He whispered, "You've been through enough. You deserve an easier road." Those were not just temptations, they were exit doors designed to pull you out of your divine assignment. But you chose the harder path. You decided that peace with God was worth more than comfort without Him. You valued a clean conscience over temporary relief. That decision didn't just shape your present, it altered your future. Every act of obedience plants seeds that will grow long after the season of trial is over. What many don't realize is that obedience often feels like loss in the moment. You give up something tangible, an opportunity, a friendship, a position without any immediate guarantee of reward. It's a surrender that doesn't make sense until much later, when the fruit begins to appear. In your case, the fruit is already forming. You may not see all of it yet, but the atmosphere around your life has shifted when you obeyed. You gave heaven permission to move in ways that compromise would have blocked. You positioned yourself for blessings that are tied not to talent or skill, but to faithfulness. Obedience also does something powerful in the spiritual realm. It silences accusations. The enemy's greatest weapon against the chosen is to make them disqualify themselves. But when you refuse his offers and stay aligned with God, you take away his leverage. You walk in the authority of someone who has nothing to hide, nothing to cover up, and nothing to be ashamed of. It's important to see your choice for what it was. It was not just a moral decision, it was an act of warfare. The enemy was betting on your exhaustion. He thought that after all you'd endured, you would grab at anything to make the pain stop. Instead, you clung to God. That choice became a victory. Cry in the spirit realm. And here's the beauty of obedience. It multiplies. Every time you choose God's way over your own, it becomes easier to do it again. The path of obedience becomes familiar under your feet. Your heart becomes more sensitive to his leading. Your reflex becomes faithfulness instead of compromise. This is why your endurance matters so much. You are not just someone who obeyed once. You are becoming someone who obeys as a way of life. That is a rare and powerful thing in a world full of shortcuts and self-promotion. There's another layer to this as well. Your obedience is not just about you. There are people connected to your life. People who will be influenced by your decisions without even realizing it. Your choice to stay on the narrow road is clearing a path for them. Your story will give them courage to make the same choice when their test comes. One day, you will look back and see that the very thing you gave up was the thing that would have destroyed you if you had taken it. You will thank God for not letting you take the easier road, and you will see that the blessings you gained through obedience are richer and more lasting than anything you could have taken in disobedience. Chosen one. Obedience in the fire proves something to heaven and to yourself. It proves that your loyalty is not for sale. It shows that you are not following God for what He can give you, but because He alone is your treasure. And that kind of devotion will never go unrewarded. When heaven began to move again, it didn't start with a roar, it started with a shift. At first, it was almost imperceptible. The heaviness in the air began to lift. The same prayers that had felt like they were hitting a ceiling began to flow with a sense of ease. You didn't see the full answer yet, but something in your spirit knew God was on the move. This is one of the most sacred moments in the life of a chosen one, when the long season of silence breaks and the wind of heaven begins to stir again. You've endured the waiting. You've held your ground in the darkness. And now, without any warning, the atmosphere starts to change. It may not look dramatic to others, but to you, it feels like the first ray of light after a long night. The heaviness that once clung to your spirit begins to loosen its grip. Your prayers no longer feel like they vanish into nothing. They return carrying a sense of promise. Something in the unseen is rearranging, aligning, preparing. You can't yet see the full picture, but deep within, you know the waiting season has shifted into a birthing season. As Jesus himself declared in the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 17, verse 20, "If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, 'Move from here to there,' and it will move." The movement of heaven often begins like that mustard seed, small, almost unnoticeable at first. It's a sudden open door, a conversation you weren't expecting, a provision that comes just in time. These are the first tremors of the breakthrough you've been praying for. But here's what's important to understand. This shift is not random. It is the direct result of everything you endured in the season before. The prayers you prayed in tears, the obedience you chose when no one was watching, the faith you held onto when the evidence was against you, all of it has been collected in heaven. And now it's tipping the scales. You might be tempted to rush forward, to grab hold of everything at once. But the movement of heaven follows a rhythm, step by step, layer by layer. God doesn't just release the blessing, He releases the timing that will allow you to carry it well. That's why this initial movement feels so gentle. It's meant to prepare you for the weight of what's coming. Sometimes, you don't even realize how much has shifted until you look back. You remember how every day used to feel like a battle just to keep your hope alive. And now there's a strength in you that feels almost effortless. You remember when joy felt out of reach. And now it's beginning to return in small but unmistakable ways. This is also the time when the enemy tries to plant doubt again. He whispers, "Don't get your hopes up. This is just a coincidence. Nothing has really changed." But you've learned enough to recognize his voice. You know that hope is not dangerous, it's necessary. It's the fuel that will keep you moving as heaven unfolds its plan. The stirring of God's movement is not just for your benefit, it is also a sign to those around you. People who have watched your endurance will begin to notice the change. They might not be able to explain it, but they will sense that something is different, and that difference will draw them not to you, but to the God who sustains you. It's in this space, between the first shift and the full breakthrough, that your faith has the chance to bloom again. This is where you speak life over what you see, where you thank God for the small beginnings, and where you keep your heart open to what He's doing next. So, right now, as an act of agreement with heaven's movement, type "winds are shifting" in the comments. These 3 words are more than an observation. They are a prophetic declaration. You are telling God, I recognize the change. I will not miss the moment. I will align my steps with the new direction. You are breathing over my life. When you declare, winds are shifting, you are stepping into spiritual awareness. You are refusing to live as if nothing is happening. You are training your heart to notice God's work before it becomes obvious to everyone else. And you are signaling to the unseen realm that you will move when heaven moves, without hesitation or fear. Chosen one, this is only the beginning. The same God who is stirring things now will bring them to completion, and because you endured the silence, you will carry a deeper gratitude for every step of the journey. Your trial becomes someone else's map. What you walked through, what you endured, and how you came out on the other side. It is not just for your testimony. God has a way of turning your personal journey into a survival guide for someone else's storm. When you were in the thick of it, you probably didn't see it this way. You thought your pain was isolated, your battle unique, your path unrepeatable. But heaven sees differently. The valleys you crossed, the mountains you climbed, the rivers you waded through, these are now landmarks that others can follow. We are reminded through the writings of David in the Psalms. Chapter 78, verse 4. We will not hide them from their descendants. We will tell the next generation the praiseworthy deeds of the Lord, His power, and the wonders He has done. You carry stories that are more than just memories. They are road signs pointing the way to hope. And the beauty of it is that you don't have to be perfect to be someone's map. You just have to be willing to share honestly. Your scars will speak louder than a polished, flawless facade. God never wastes pain. Every tear you shed was collected. Every prayer you whispered was recorded. And every step you took in faith was marked on heaven's timeline. Now, those moments become coordinates for someone who feels lost in the dark. And here's something powerful when you share your journey. It multiplies its impact. You never know who might hear your words at exactly the right time. Someone might be on the verge of giving up, but your testimony will pull them back from the edge. That's why I want to encourage you to do more than just receive this message. Help it travel. Like this message so it can reach further. Share it with a friend or family member who might be in their own valley. Subscribe so you don't miss the words that will strengthen you in the days ahead. And if God places it in your heart to sow into this ministry, your gift becomes part of the very map we are building together, helping guide countless others toward hope, faith, and life in Christ. When you partner in this way, you're not just supporting content, you're investing in souls. You're helping someone in another city, another country, maybe even another continent. Hear the exact word that keeps them holding on. That's eternal fruit. And in heaven's economy, nothing is more valuable. Think back to when you were in your hardest season. Imagine if someone had handed you a clear map out of it, proof that there was an end to the road, signs that you weren't lost, directions for how to keep walking. That's what you now hold for someone else. Your obedience, your endurance, your story. They have formed a guide that will save someone unnecessary detours and dangerous turns. This is why the enemy fought you so hard in that season. He knew that if you made it out, you wouldn't just be free, you'd become a leader. You'd start showing others the way, and that would multiply the damage to his plans. So now, when you speak about your journey, speak with clarity and courage. Tell the truth about the hard days, but also tell the truth about the faithfulness of God. Tell how you almost gave up, but God's hand pulled you back. Tell how you were surrounded by darkness, but the light of His word guided your steps. These details matter. They become markers for the next traveler. And remember this, maps aren't just for strangers. Sometimes the very people in your own family, your circle of friends, or your workplace are silently searching for direction. They may never say it out loud, but they are watching you, looking for signs that faith can survive the storm. Your life now stands as living proof. You have walked through things that others fear, and you emerged not only intact, but transformed. You can now say with authority, "I've been there, and I know the way forward." That is one of the most powerful gifts you can offer the world. Chosen one. Your trial was never wasted. Every step of it is now part of a divine navigation system that will guide others to safety. And as you keep sharing, keep pointing, and keep building this map, you are fulfilling one of the highest callings in the kingdom, to lead others into the same freedom you have found. The crown prepared in silence is unlike any other. It is not forged in the noise of public victory or in the glitter of recognition. It is formed in the hidden spaces where no one claps, no one notices, and no one understands the cost. Chosen one. The crown you carry now was shaped in a season when you wondered if you were even seen. Heaven does not measure worth the way the world does. While people reward quick wins and visible success, God rewards endurance, faithfulness, and the willingness to stay the course when there is no applause. That is why the crown He has prepared for you carries such weight. It is a reflection of victories that only heaven witnessed. It is in the unseen battles, the prayers whispered when no one was near, that the truest victories are won. Heaven's applause is silent to human ears, but resounds in eternity. Every step you took in faith carved a place for this crown to rest upon your life. This crown is not merely a symbol. It is evidence that you were trusted with fire and did not let it consume you. It declares that you stood when others fell, that you chose obedience when escape was easier, and that you allowed God to write your story in His timing. The Apostle reminds us in his letter to the Corinthians, first letter, chapter 9, verse 25, "Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever." 1. This crown is not a decoration, it's an impartation. It carries with it a measure of authority, wisdom, and grace that you did not have before the trial. And the remarkable thing is that you did not even know it was being formed. While you were simply trying to obey, to hold on, to keep walking, heaven was shaping something over your life that would rest on you in due season. In silence, your character was being refined. In silence, your motives were being purified. The moments when you felt abandoned were the very moments when the crown was taking shape. Every prayer prayed in faith became another jewel. Every temptation resisted became another layer of gold. Every tear that fell into the hands of God became another engraving of His faithfulness on your story. The crown prepared in silence also carries a mystery. The less you sought it, the more perfectly it fits. This is because crowns in the kingdom are not earned through striving for recognition. They are entrusted to those who can carry them without pride. Your season of hiddenness was not a delay, it was a safeguard, ensuring that when this crown was placed on you, it would not crush you with the weight of misplaced motives. This crown also tells a story to the unseen realm. It is a visible sign in the spirit that you have passed a test others could not. To angels, it is a celebration of faith fulfilled. To demons, it is a warning that their strategies failed. And to you, it is a quiet, holy reminder that God never wastes a season, no matter how silent. When God places such a crown, He also releases a deeper calling. It may not look like a sudden explosion of opportunities. Instead, it often comes as an increase in the weight your presence carries. People may begin to seek your counsel without knowing why. Your words may land with unusual authority. Doors may open that you did not knock on, simply because heaven has placed its mark upon you. Yet with the crown comes responsibility. You are now a carrier of a testimony that can ignite faith in others. But you must also guard it carefully. Not everyone will understand how you received it. Some may even question whether you deserve it. But you will know the truth. It was given, not earned. And it came at a cost that few could endure. Your crown is not meant to be hidden in shame, nor flaunted in arrogance. It is meant to be worn in humility, as a constant reminder of the one who brought you through the silence and the fire. It will remind you that every unseen act of obedience matters. Every moment of waiting matters. Every trial that pushed you to your knees matters. One day, when you stand before Him face to face, you will lay this crown at His feet, not because you didn't value it, but because you will recognize that every part of it was His work in you. Until then, wear it with reverence, with gratitude, and with the knowledge that heaven prepared it long before you saw it coming. The new mantle on your life is more than just a change in title or position. It is a visible shift in the spirit. When you pass a test that heaven has set before you, God doesn't just restore what was lost. He clothes you with something entirely new. A mantle is not given for decoration. It is given for function, authority, and purpose. When Elijah passed his own test of obedience, he carried a mantle that could part rivers and call down fire. It wasn't just fabric, it was the embodiment of a divine assignment. In the same way, chosen one, the mantle you now carry is the evidence of heaven's trust in you. It was proclaimed in the second letter to Timothy, chapter 4, verse 5. But you, keep your head in all situations. Endure hardship. Do the work of an evangelist. Discharge all the duties of your ministry. This mantle is not light. It carries responsibility. It will require you to walk in a new level of faithfulness and vigilance. The tests you passed have qualified you to carry weight that others cannot see. But the unseen realm will recognize it immediately. You might begin to notice that spiritual resistance changes. Some battles that once overwhelmed you now seem small. Certain temptations no longer even catch your attention. Your discernment is sharper, your spirit steadier, and your awareness of God's presence more constant. That's because this mantle is tailored to your refined character. It sits securely on the shoulders of someone who has been proven. The mantle also shifts the atmosphere around you. People may respond to you differently without knowing why. Some will be drawn to the light you carry, seeking wisdom and encouragement. Others, uncomfortable with the authority you now walk in, may distance themselves. This is normal. Light always draws some and exposes others. What's important to remember is that this mantle is not for your comfort. It is for your mission. God has entrusted it to you because there are assignments ahead that require the specific authority and grace it carries. You were not meant to pass the hardest test and then return to life. As it was, you were meant to step into something greater. This is why the enemy's opposition has been so intense. He knows that mantles don't just impact one person, they release a ripple effect. Through your obedience, others will find freedom, healing, and direction. This mantle means that your influence will stretch beyond what you can see. You might feel unqualified at times, wondering if you can truly carry what God has placed on you. That feeling is normal and healthy because it reminds you to depend on Him daily. A mantle is never meant to be carried in human strength. It rests easily only when you walk in step with the one who gave it. So, today, I want you to make a prophetic declaration that you receive and will steward this new mantle well. Type 888 inch the comments. 8 is the number of new beginnings, and 888 is a sign of complete renewal and fresh anointing. When you write it, you are not just typing digits, you are saying to heaven, I accept the assignment, I embrace the responsibility, and I will walk in the authority you have given me. This act matters because the spoken and written word carries power in the kingdom, just as God spoke creation into being. Your agreement with His purpose in your life activates the fullness of what this mantle is meant to do. You didn't earn this mantle through perfection, you received it through perseverance, faith, and surrender. It was forged in moments where you could have chosen bitterness, but chose worship instead. Where you could have chosen compromise, but chose truth instead. Every right choice, every act of faith, every prayer of surrender wove another thread into it. And now, wearing it, you will find that doors open without you forcing them. Opportunities align without you chasing them. And divine connections appear without you striving for them. That's because this mantle is recognized by heaven and feared by hell. Cherish it, guard it, and walk in it with humility. You are not the same person you were before the trial. The fire changed you, the silence shaped you, and the victory crowned you. And now, the mantle marks you as one sent, one who carries something this world desperately needs. Enemies now forced to witness, this is the season you have stepped into. The same voices that doubted you, mocked you, or dismissed, you are about to see with their own eyes what God has done in your life. This is not about vengeance, it is about vindication. God's justice often works in a way that brings visibility to His work, not to humiliate others, but to display His faithfulness. They may not say it aloud, but their silence will speak volumes. Some will avoid your eyes, not out of anger, but out of the weight of conviction. Others will watch from a distance, trying to understand how the one they counted out is now walking in a blessing they cannot deny. You won't need to defend yourself. Your life will do the talking. Every answered prayer, every door hot opened, every restoration that came will stand as living evidence that His promises are unshakable. This is the quiet power of vindication. It doesn't shout. It simply stands and shines. The Word of God declares in the book of Psalms, chapter 23, verse 5, You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. End of T. For a long time, It seemed like your enemies were the ones feasting while you were left empty-handed. You saw them prosper in ways that didn't match their integrity, and it tested your heart deeply. There were moments you asked God, "Why do they seem to win while I am struggling to stand?" What you didn't see was the table being set while you were in the shadows. The Master was arranging a banquet that could not be rushed. Every dish on that table represents a victory, a leçon, a breakthrough, or a restoration. And God, in His perfect timing, has chosen to serve it all, in plain view of those who said you would not make it. This is not about showing off to your critics. It's about giving glory to the one who sustained you. When God blesses you in such a public way, it's a testimony that no weapon formed against you truly prospered. It's an unspoken declaration. They tried, but it didn't work. For some, witnessing your breakthrough will be a moment of conviction. They will remember the things they said, the ways they tried to hinder you, and realize that they were opposing someone God had chosen. Others may still refuse to acknowledge the truth, but it won't change the fact that the blessing is undeniable. You may not realize it yet, but this moment of public vindication is also a form of spiritual warfare. The enemy thrives on the appearance of your defeat. He uses it to discourage others and weaken faith. But when God lifts you in the very place where you were pushed down, it sends a message that heaven always has the final word. Think about Joseph. His brothers threw him into a pit, sold him into slavery, and thought his story was over. Years later, those same brothers stood before him in the palace, asking for food to survive. The table was not just physical, it was prophetic. It showed that what was meant for harm had been turned for good. The same pattern is true for you. The very place where you were dishonored will become the place of your honor. The relationships that closed their doors on you will hear about the new opportunities you've stepped into. The systems that once excluded you will now have to acknowledge your role and your voice. This moment also tests your heart. When God elevates you, will you hold bitterness toward those who opposed you, or will you walk in grace? True vindication is not about proving them wrong, it's about proving God right. When you sit at the table He has prepared, the greatest statement you can make is to enjoy His goodness without allowing resentment to take root. The truth is, some of your enemies will never change. They may watch you rise and still find reasons to speak against you. But others will be transformed, not because you argued with them, but because they could not deny the hand of God on your life. Your part is to keep your eyes on the one who prepared the table. The oil on your head and the overflowing cup are not the result of your own striving. They are the direct work of His hand. And as much as this moment is about you, it is even more about Him. When the onlookers, friends, strangers, and yes, even enemies, see your life now, they will have to reckon with the truth that the God who allowed your testing is the same God who has brought you into triumph. And that truth will stand, whether they choose to honor it or not. Your voice now carries fire. This is not the same voice you had before the trials, the silence, and the refining. Back then, your words might have been true, but they lacked the depth of someone who has been through the furnace and emerged still faithful. Now, when you speak, there is weight behind every sentence, a weight that comes from experience, endurance, and divine anointing. Fire in the Spirit is not noise. It is not about volume or emotion alone. Fire is purity, power, and presence combined. It's the spark of heaven in your speech. The living evidence that your words are not just your own, they are infused with something eternal, as was spoken in the sacred texts of old, in Jeremiah chapter 20. Verse 9, His word is in my heart like a fire shut up in my bones. I am weary of holding it in. Indeed, I cannot. Oh, this is what your life feels like now. You've been entrusted with truths you cannot keep silent about. They burn within you until they are released. And when they are released, they do more than inform, they ignite. The fire in your voice is not man-made. It comes from the long nights you spent seeking God, the moments you stood in the dark and still declared His faithfulness, the prayers that seemed unanswered but were shaping your very soul. Every hardship you endured added fuel to the flame. When you speak now, something happens in the unseen. Chains begin to weaken. Fear begins to break. Faith begins to rise. It's not because of eloquence, but because the fire in you is the same fire that spoke from the burning bush, that fell on the prophets, that descended in the upper room. This is why the enemy fought so hard to silence you before. He knew that once your voice was lit by heaven's fire, it would be unstoppable. He tried to convince you that no one was listening, that your words didn't matter, that you had nothing worth saying. But the fire would not die. And now, every time you speak, whether to one person in a quiet conversation or to a crowd, you are releasing something that didn't exist before you walked through your trials. Your testimony is no longer theory, it's proof. People may debate doctrine, but they cannot deny the transformation they see and feel when you speak. There's also a sobering truth here. Fire both warms and burns. Those who are hungry for truth will be drawn to it, comforted and inspired. Those who resist it may feel exposed and even uncomfortable. That's the nature of fire. It reveals, refines, and sometimes consumes. Your role is not to control the outcome, but to speak as you are led, trusting the one who gave you the fire in the first place. The more you steward this gift, the more precise and powerful it will become. Just as a blacksmith shapes metal in the flames, God will shape your words in prayer, scripture, and obedience. He will teach you when to speak and when to hold silence, when to declare boldly and when to whisper truth into a single heart. This fire will also protect you. It will burn away the need for approval, the fear of man, and the temptation to water down the message. Once you've carried this kind of flame, you cannot go back to empty, lifeless speech. You've seen what truth can do, and you will not settle for anything less. And here is the mystery. The more you release the fire, the stronger it grows. Fear says, "Save your strength, you might run out." But in the kingdom, pouring out what you've been given multiplies it. The fire does not diminish when it's shared, it spreads. One day, you will look back and realize that the very trials meant to silence you were the ones that gave your voice its authority. You will see that the seasons of obscurity, the moments when you felt invisible, were actually seasons of preparation. God was building a furnace in your soul so that when the time came, your words would carry His fire without being consumed by it. Chosen one, your voice is no longer just yours. It is a tool in the hands of the Almighty, a torch in the dark, a spark that can set entire atmospheres ablaze. Guard it, feed it, and let it burn for His glory. This was never just about you. The fire, the testing, the silence, the breakthroughs, they were shaping more than your personal destiny. Heaven's plan has always been bigger than one life. God chose you, not only for what He wanted to do in you, but for what He wanted to do through you for others. When you made the decision to stay faithful, it wasn't only your story that shifted. Your obedience sent ripples into places you cannot yet see. People you've never met, people you may never meet on this side of eternity, will be touched by the choices you made in secret. Your unseen obedience has moved through families, communities, and even generations you will never meet. Heaven records each choice, and in God's timing, they bloom into testimonies that spread far beyond your reach, carrying hope into places you never stepped foot. What you endured has become a spiritual inheritance for others. Someone will find strength in the same scripture that carried you. Someone will whisper the same prayer you once prayed, and without knowing it, they will walk a path you cleared. This ripple effect is the mystery of kingdom influence. A single yes to God multiplies into countless yeses across the earth. Your secret victories will echo in the lives of those who didn't even know you fought for them. The voice of God thundered in the book of Isaiah, chapter 61, verse 1. The Spirit of the Sovereign Lord is on me, because the Lord has anointed me to proclaim good news to the poor. He has sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim freedom for the captives, and release from darkness for the prisoners. Your life now carries that same commissioning spirit. You've been set free to help set others free. You've been healed so you can point others toward healing. Your victory was never meant to be stored away. It is a seed meant to be planted again and again into the soil of other lives. But here's what many don't realize. Every testimony needs a platform. The words that could change someone's life must actually reach them, and that's where your part in this mission continues. I want to encourage you to like this message so it can travel further. Share it with someone you know is in a battle of their own. And subscribe so you remain connected to a community that will keep you strong in faith. And if the Lord prompts you, consider sowing into this work. Every gift, large or small, helps spread these messages to hearts that may be hanging by a thread. There are people scrolling right now who feel unseen and forgotten. But your act of generosity could put the exact word they need in front of their eyes at the exact moment they need it. I also want to invite you to comment below, not just a quick emoji, but a few words about what God is doing in your heart through this journey. Your comment isn't only interaction, it's ministry. Someone will read your words and realize they are not alone. Someone will see your story and find the courage to keep going. Because here's the truth. What God began in you is meant to multiply. When your obedience intersects with someone else's desperation, miracle apparaît. That's why the enemy wanted you to think your life didn't matter, because he knew the moment you realized its impact, you would become unstoppable. The beauty of God's plan is that He uses the very things that tried to destroy you as tools to build others. The valley you walk through becomes a bridge for someone else. The lessons you learned in the storm become shelter for those still facing the winds. Your voice, your presence, your willingness to share are part of a divine network. Heaven is weaving. You may only see your thread, but when woven together with countless others, it becomes a tapestry of redemption that covers and protects. Don't underestimate what can happen when you release your testimony. That conversation you have with a friend, that video you forward, that encouraging reply you leave for a stranger online, these are seeds, and God is a master at turning seeds into forests. Chosen one, you were never meant to carry the title of survivor alone. You were meant to be a guide, a mentor, a beacon for those still in the shadows. And as you keep giving away what you have received, heaven will keep filling you with more wisdom, more peace, more fire. So, step fully into this truth. It was never just about you. Your breakthrough is someone else's lifeline. Your faithfulness is someone else's map. And your story is a weapon against the very darkness that once tried to silence you. You now walk as one proven. The title of chosen is a gift. But the title of proven is something you receive only after enduring the fire and remaining faithful. Many are called, but few are willing to endure the process that transforms calling into credibility. Being proven is not about perfection. It's about trustworthiness under pressure. It means that when the storm raged, you did not abandon your post. It means that when shortcuts appeared, you chose the long road of obedience. It means that when silence tested you, you kept believing. According to what is revealed in the book of Proverbs, chapter 17, verse 3, the crucible for silver and the furnace for gold, but the Lord tests the heart. Your heart has been through that testing, not just once, but over and over again. Every season of your journey has carried a different form of the furnace, sometimes the heat of loss, sometimes the pressure of waiting, sometimes the flame of misunderstanding. Each time, something was being purified. Walking as one proven changes the way you move through life. You no longer rush to prove yourself to others. You've already been proven where it matters most. You no longer cling to every opinion. Your identity has been anchored in what God says about you. This shift brings a quiet authority. You don't have to announce it, it's felt. People may not know your whole story, but they can sense the depth behind your words and the steadiness in your presence. This is the fruit of having walked with God through valleys and mountaintops alike. Being proven also means you understand the cost of trust. You've learned that God's promises are not light things to hold. They are weighty treasures. Carrying them requires integrity, humility, and the willingness to keep walking even when the path is unclear. It also means you can now be entrusted with more. In the kingdom, responsibility is not given to those who simply desire it. It's given to those who have shown they will steward it well. You have shown that you will not run when the assignment becomes difficult. Your provenness will be tested again. It's not a one-time achievement, but each time you endure, each time you remain steadfast, it builds upon the last, creating a foundation that cannot be shaken by sudden storms. Consider how David was proven before he ever faced Goliath. He had already fought lions and bears in the hidden places. Victories no one applauded but God. Those unseen victories were the reason he could stand before the giant without fear. In the same way, the giants ahead of you will not intimidate you because of the battles you've already won with God's help. This doesn't mean the journey will be without challenges, but the nature of your challenges will change. You are no longer in the stage of proving your faith's existence. You are in the stage of proving its endurance. You know God is with you. So the question is never if you will make it through, but how you will glorify Him in the process. Being proven also allows you to lead without striving. Those who are still trying to prove themselves often lead from insecurity, needing constant validation. But you can lead from overflow, not from need. Your confidence comes not from self-sufficiency, but from the history you have with God. You've learned that sometimes the greatest victories are not in the visible triumphs, but in the quiet choices to stay faithful. Those choices, repeated over time, have shaped you into someone heaven can depend on. That is the essence of walking as one proven in the coming seasons. Your proven faith will open doors into assignments that others might hesitate to accept. There will be moments when God asks you to step into uncertainty again, not because He doubts you, but because He knows you are ready. When you carry the title of proven, it also means you have become a living testimony for others still in the refining stage. They will look at you and see that the fire can be endured, that the silence can be survived, and that the waiting is worth it. Chosen one. You are no longer just marked by potential, you are marked by perseverance. You have history with God that no one can take away, and because of that, you walk now with the steady step of one who has been tested, found faithful, and entrusted with more. The unshakable future ahead is not a vague hope, it is a certainty grounded in the one who brought you through every past season. Chosen one. You have seen too much of His faithfulness to doubt that what lies ahead is anything less than purposeful and good. Your future is not fragile because it does not rest on the shifting sands of circumstance. It is anchored in the unchanging nature of God. The same hands that steadied you in the fire will guide you in the days of harvest. The same voice that whispered to you in the silence will lead you into wide open spaces. It is written in the book of Isaiah, chapter 46, verse 10. I make known the end from the beginning, from ancient times, what is still to come. My purpose will stand, and I will do all that I please. This is why you can walk forward with confidence, not because you know every detail, but because you know the one who holds them. You are not stepping into an unknown story, you are stepping into a chapter already written by the author of eternity. The unshakable future is not without challenges, but your perspective has changed. You now see challenges as opportunities for God to display His power again. You've learned that the end of your strength is the beginning of His, and that truth will carry you through whatever comes next. There will be new assignments, some that will stretch you further than you have been stretched before, but the stretching no longer frightens you, because you've experienced the fruit it produces. Every test you've passed has prepared you for greater trust, greater responsibility, and greater impact. The days ahead will also carry divine appointments, moments you could never orchestrate on your own, conversations that shift someone's life, encounters that confirm your next steps, opportunities that align so perfectly you know they could only be heaven's design. These will not be accidents, they will be the unfolding of promises planted long ago. You will also notice that the fears which once held you back no longer have the same grip. You have walked through storms that should have destroyed you, and now even the thought of opposition does not shake you. Your confidence is no longer built on the absence of trouble, but on the presence of God. In this next chapter, you will find a deeper rhythm of walking with Him, not rushing ahead, not lagging behind, but moving in step with His timing. You will find joy in the journey, even before every promise is fulfilled, because you've learned to see His fingerprints in the small things. Your unshakable future is also a gift to those around you. It will inspire courage in the fearful, stability in the uncertain, and hope in the discouraged. People will watch the way you move through life and sense that there is something different, a peace that cannot be manufactured, a strength that cannot be faked. This peace and strength are not the absence of reality, They are the evidence of a deeper reality that your life is hidden in Christ, and no circumstance can pull it from His grasp. And while you will still face decisions, you will not face them in the same way you once did. Anxiety will no longer be your default response, because you've seen how God redeems even your missteps. You will approach choices with prayer, patience, and an expectation that He will make the way clear. There will be moments of celebration ahead, answers to prayers you've nearly forgotten you prayed, restorations that will leave you in awe, unexpected blessings that will remind you that God is not only a deliverer in times of trouble, but also a Father who delights in giving good gifts to His children. And in all of it, you will remain steady. You will remember the valleys you crossed, the fires you survived, the tables prepared in the presence of your enemies. And you will know deep in your bones that no new storm can undo what God has already established in you. Chosen one, your future is not merely about personal success, it is about kingdom impact. Every step you take will ripple outward, influencing lives, shaping stories, and leaving an eternal mark. This is the unshakable future, a life that cannot be uprooted because its roots run deep into the unmovable rock. Chosen one, you've walked with me through every stage of this journey, from the moment heaven paused to speak to you, through the valleys, the fire, the silence, the proving, and now into the unshakable future God has prepared. This isn't just the end of a message, it's the beginning of a new chapter in your life. You've been reminded of who you are, not just called, but chosen, refined, proven, and anointed for such a time as this. And I believe with all my heart that your story will continue to inspire, guide, and strengthen many others who are still in their own battles. But this movement doesn't end here. If this message has stirred your spirit, I want to invite you to take part in multiplying its impact. Like this, so it can reach further. Share it with someone who needs the reminder that their trial is not the end. Subscribe so you stay connected to a flow of faith-filled messages that will keep you strong in the seasons ahead. And if God places it on your heart, consider sowing into this work. Every gift helps keep these words going out into the world to the broken-hearted, the weary, and the ones ready to give up. Your support could be the very thing that places hope back into their hands. Finally, leave a comment about the moment in this journey that spoke most to you. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. In this way, your voice joins the mission, and together, we become a chorus of testimonies that no darkness can silence. The world needs what you carry. Chosen one, let's make sure it goes where it's needed most.